Whenever I have a bad day, taking a relaxing stroll through the woods always cheers me up. But whilst we all know our nettles from our pine trees, there's a much stranger side to life's greenery that often goes unmentioned. It's time to get your gloves on as we embark on a herbivorous adventure through the strangest plants and trees you won't believe exist. Hidden horror. When I was younger and cuter than I am today, school taught me that all plants had stems, leaves, and roots. But school was wrong. This is the Hydnora africana, a supremely strange plant native to southern Africa. And it doesn't have a stem or leaves. Instead, it's entirely made up of one big fleshy flower and roots. That's all it needs because Hydnora africana is a parasite. It survives by binding its roots to those of asperge plants before sponging nutrients from them. So it doesn't need leaves to convert sunlight into energy, it just steals the energy of others. But if you think that's freaky, there's more. The flower has that weird mouth thingy for a very specific reason: to ensnare unsuspecting bugs. You see, Hydnora africana stinks. It emits a disgusting poopy smell which lures insects like dung beetles towards it. Then after climbing onto the flower, the insects are prone to falling through the gaps and getting stuck inside. This is perfect for the plant. Not because it wants to eat the beetle, but because the beetle gets absolutely covered in its pollen. A couple of days later, the flower opens up and the sticky insect is released so it can fly off and spread its pollen to other flowers in the area, pollinating them. Pretty nifty. But you know what's even niftier? Never missing another of my amazing videos again. All you've got to do is hit those like and subscribe buttons. Go on. Now let's get back to it. Magnificent mimicry. You know what people say, be yourself and the rest will follow. This may be true for humans and whatever the heck I am. However, plants have their own rules. Many species of orchid reproduce by taking on the shapes of anything but themselves. Like the rare Australian flying duck orchid. It might look absolutely quackers to us, but if you were a male sawfly, you might mistake it for a saucy-looking ladyfly. Yeah, I don't see the resemblance either. But gullible males land on the orchid hoping for a good time, only to get a face full of pollen instead. Then, when the flies set off again and inevitably make the same mistake, they spread the pollen onto a new plant and begin the reproductive cycle. Whilst unbelievably sneaky, the deception is actually quite common. This is a Draculasimia orchid, and it uses a similar tactic. Despite its vampiric name, it looks more like a capuchin monkey, and so has earned the cute nickname Monkey Orchid. Don't worry though, although both the flowers and capuchins are native to Latin America, there's no monkey business going on between them. They're pollinated by tiny fungus gnats who mistake the flower's center for a mushroom. And the orchid mimicry doesn't stop there. The aptly named bee orchid has evolved over the years to attract, well, bees. Not only are they fuzzy to the touch, but they even emit the scent of female bees. Some orchids' wild mimicry is a little more confusing though. This is a green bird flower, and it looks just like a hummingbird. The only problem? There are no hummingbirds in its native Australia, so no one is certain how this posing pollinator came to be, or what benefits its unique look has. It's got to have something to do with birds, right? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Wished you well. Being unable to get a haircut during COVID-19 was a tough time for your handsome neighborhood fact giver, but even with my messy locks, I still looked a lot better than the well-wished ya. This tangled mess starts life as nothing more than two little leaves, and unbelievably, these are the only two leaves it ever has. Unlike other plants, the leaves never shed, but split and fray instead, gradually developing into something resembling the wires down the back of my TV. The wacky plant grows up to 6 inches every year. That's about as fast as human hair, and can reach a staggering 6 feet wide and up to 20 feet long. If the leaves weren't prone to breaking after that length, they'd stretch on for a whopping 750 feet too. That's because they continue to grow for the entirety of the plant's life, which can be over 1,500 years. That means some of these guys have been around since the start of the Middle Ages. Whoa. But hang on, Welwitschia grow in southern Africa's Namib Desert, where conditions are incredibly dry. I mean, it can go an entire year without raining. So how does a massive plant like this survive without anything to drink? Well, nearly all Welwitschia are found near the coast, in an area known as the fog belt. Here, the hot desert clashes with the cool ocean and causes the water to evaporate, creating a thick layer of fog which rolls across the sands. Welwitschia take advantage of this, trapping the moisture from the fog between loads of tiny hairs on their huge leaves, which they then absorb. If only my leg hairs did that on a hot day. You are what you eat. Come on, everyone's got at least one food they hate. Mine's marshmallows. They make me feel like I'm eating my own leg. But if your pet hate is sour stuff, then I've got the perfect solution. This is a so-called miracle berry. Looks like an ordinary berry, right? Wrong. If you eat one of these little guys, anything that normally tastes sour becomes sweet. So if you popped one then chugged a whole bottle of lemon juice, it'd taste more like lemonade. Cool. But how the heck does it work? Well, it's all thanks to something called a glycoprotein. Glycoprotein is a molecule that contains proteins and carbohydrates. Miracle berries have a glycoprotein called miraculin in them, which binds to the sweetness receptors on our tongues. Once bound, those receptors, which normally only activate when we eat sweet foods, activate for acids found in sour foods instead. So it tricks your taste buds into thinking sour is sweet. The effect only lasts a few hours, but if you try it, don't go around eating everything you see in that time. If you munch down on this common houseplant, for example, well, you'd be in for a nasty surprise. It's called a Dieffenbachia, or dumb cane, because if you eat it, you're not going to be saying much for the next 2 weeks. That's because dumb cane contains tiny poisonous crystals called raphides. If eaten, the crystals trigger immediate numbing of the mouth and swelling of the airways. Ugh, it's a good thing I don't go around eating houseplants then, I guess. Sapling Slammer. When I'm not producing awesome videos, I'm actually very well behaved. As such, I've never had to spend the night locked up in the slammer. But if I did, Hillgrove Police Station would probably be the strangest place I could be thrown into. Located just a short drive south of Wyndham, Western Australia, it's far from your usual police station. Nope, Hillgrove Lockup is inside a giant hollowed-out bulb tree. And I mean giant. This penitentiary plant is over 100 square feet inside and nearly 40 feet all the way around. Whilst that might be a fair bit larger than your standard cell, some claim a staggering 30 prisoners were crammed in there at any one time. Man, I'd be praying none of my cellmates had to go number 2 in the night. The giant tree was first spotted by police in the 1890s. Because the upper branches had holes in them, they guessed the whole thing might be hollow. So the cops cut an opening in the center of the trunk, and lo and behold, it was. This is because the inner trunk of a bulb is softer and spongier than the outside, meaning over time it dies and rots away, leaving just the outer shell. In other words, it made the perfect natural jail. Police would keep prisoners there overnight so they could catch some rest before taking them to Wyndham for sentencing. That's not the only unconventional use for the bulb tree, though. In nearby Derby, native Australians used to use one to store the bodies of their dead. Ugh. I'm not normally squeamish, but the thought of finding a big old pile of bones in there is enough to give anyone the heebie-jeebies. Oh, so appealing. Quiz question. What color are trees? I'd say brown or green. But if I was from the Philippines, Indonesia, or Papua New Guinea, I'd have a wildly different answer. That's because rainbow eucalyptus grow in those countries, trees which have remarkable multicolored patterns all across their trunks. Whoa. You see, the outer layers of bark are thin, and over time they peel away to reveal a layer of green inner bark. As this becomes exposed to air, it gradually changes into a variety of different colors. And because different parts of the bark peel off at different times, they're all at different points in the process, meaning the colors collide and create this awesome pattern. Neat. Alright, but how and why does this happen? Well, some brainy scientists reckon it's to do with parasites. By shedding the outer bark, the trees effectively dislodge any unwanted plants and organisms that may have been growing on it. As for the crazy colors, well, that initial green color is down to chlorophyll, a green pigment that lets plants convert light into energy. As the tree ages, however, pigments called tannins begin to develop too. These are bitter tasting and thought to put animals off eating the tree, and they come in yellow, brown, and red. So the combination of these tannins plus chlorophyll leads to all the psychedelic colors we see. Untree-leavable. Back from the brink. Sadly, unless you believe in reincarnation, when your life comes to its end, you ain't getting another go. But some plants aren't restricted in the same mortal ways you and I might be. This is an elderly resurrection plant. It might look like it's seen better days, but just watch. Whoa! And here's one after a few more hours. The footage was sped up, but the whole process from wrinkled old tumbleweed to flourishing foliage just takes a few days. The crazy plant has adapted expertly to the extremely dry conditions of the Chihuahuan Desert in Mexico, where it can sometimes go without water for years on end. It endures extreme dehydration, known as desiccation, by detaching its roots and shriveling into a tiny dry ball. But hold on. How on earth does it live like this? Well, it creates a sugar called trehalose. This protects the plant's cell walls and makes them more flexible. You know, when you don't water your houseplants and they go all dry and crack? Yeah, trehalose stops that. Desiccation-tolerant plants also slow their metabolisms down so they don't need anywhere near as much energy to survive. It's kind of like hibernation for plants. Anyway, once our resurrection plant is all dry and shriveled, it becomes light enough for the wind to blow it along in the hopes of finding water. This epic journey can last years, but it's all worth it. Once the hardy ball finds a water source, it quickly rehydrates and forms new roots to bed itself into the soil. How incredible is that? I once ate a whole jar of peanut butter, and my mouth didn't rehydrate for over a week. But there's another tale of plant regeneration that's way cooler. Back in 2012, Russian scientists found the seed and fruit of a 30,000-year-old narrow-leafed campion. They'd been frozen long ago in deep Ice Age-era squirrel burrows, and the ice had kept them incredibly well preserved. Miraculously, scientists were able to use the samples to grow a whole new narrow-leafed campion from them. Which means, yeah, they resurrected something that should have died 30 millennia ago. How brilliant is that? Whilst I'm chill with them bringing back plants from the dead though, I kinda think they should stop there. With all the dinosaur bones in museums, I don't want to wake up in a live-action remake of Jurassic Park. Pungent petals. Who doesn't love getting flowers? They're pretty, smell good, and really brighten up any room you can put them in. Just like me. But one flower I definitely don't want to have in my house is the corpse flower. Not that it fit, the beast grows up to 15 feet tall, making it the largest flowering structure in the world. If the size and name aren't enough to put you off though, this thing absolutely stinks of rotting flesh. Ew. Dung beetles, flesh flies, and other lovely insects that eat dead things love it though. In fact, they're the reason it gives off the smell. Because like all plants, the corpse flower needs to be pollinated. And it can even change its temperature to attract its pollinators, warming up to 98 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly body temperature. Despite its super gross, super clever way of reproducing though, things aren't looking great for old Corpsey. Due to deforestation, there's fewer than 1,000 individuals left in the wild rainforests of western Sumatra and Indonesia. Aw, as much as I dislike the smell of death, it'd be sad to see the big guy go. Seed for speed. Fruit is one of the most delicious parts of a plant or tree. Some fruits don't go down without a fight though, like the exploding cucumber. Yep, that little guy shot straight off its stem. The plants are native to the Mediterranean, North Africa, and warmer parts of Asia. And once their fruit has reached peak ripeness, well, you just saw. They explode, shooting seeds out at insane speeds of almost 60 miles per hour. For a fruit only 2 inches long, that's quite a spray. And the seeds can be propelled up to a whopping 20 feet, landing all around the place so more plants can grow. It's a nifty little trick. As the cucumber ripens, the cells around the seeds begin to break down into a thick, gooey liquid called mucilage. The volume of this liquid creates an enormous internal pressure within the fruit. So when fully ripe, the slightest knock is enough to upset the delicate balance within and make the fruit burst. Even if the cucumbers didn't have this crazy ability though, I still wouldn't recommend eating them. That's because they contain high levels of cucurbitacin, which is a class of poisonous biochemical compounds. See how the seeds fire out of that tiny hole in the top? Yeah, cucurbitacin does that to your stomach. Oof. And at high enough levels, it can even be fatal. I'm never complaining about a boring cucumber sandwich again. A whole lot of his tree. You've probably heard the wedding vow, till death do us part before. However, some trees take this to the extreme, like these two in Buk National Park, Hungary, that have quite literally fused together. This means that even though the one on the left was chopped in half, the right tree has kept it alive by providing it with all the nutrients it requires. This remarkable ability is known as inosculation. It happens when two adjacent trees grow so close that they begin rubbing together. Over time, this exposes a layer beneath the bark known as cambium. This layer of cells divides and multiplies, causing the tree to grow. But when two trees' cambium layers rub against one another together, over time the cells can join, fusing the two organisms into one. And this can happen any number of times, whether it's branch to branch or branch to trunk. Natural occurrences like this can be pretty breathtaking. I mean, little trees can even grow on the branches of bigger trees. But some ingenious gardeners have found ways to deliberately alter trees to breathtaking effect. This isn't magic, it's daisugi, a traditional Japanese method of growing cedar trees that's been around for over 600 years. Essentially, a base tree is pruned, meaning some of its branches are cut off. This triggers fresh ones to begin growing upwards from where the old ones were. By repeatedly pruning these offshoots every couple of years, you can shape them to be perfectly straight. If that doesn't impress you though, Australian artist Peter Cook might. He painstakingly manipulated the branches of this tree over 12 years to get a comfy looking living chair. British designer Gavin Munro also shapes trees, using plastic molds to create his unique pieces of furniture. Each chair takes about 5 years and a whole lot of patience to complete though. And at over $6,000 a piece, there'd better be no chance of a splinter up the butt. Yep, that'd be a real bummer. I'll take a salad. It might be strange to think of plants as having diets, but like all living things, they do. One of the pickiest is Nepenthes ampullaria, which is a type of pitcher plant found throughout Southeast Asia. There are roughly 140 different species of pitcher plant. Whilst its carnivorous counterparts will eat anything from insects to rats though, Nepenthes ampullaria sustains itself largely off plant matter. A vegan plant, huh? Wouldn't that be cannibalism? Ugh. Due to their dietary preferences, these pitcher plants grow all along the forest floor, maximizing the chances of leaves falling into them. And once the leaves are inside, they're not, leafing. An acidic liquid within the bell of the plants breaks them down for consumption. Pretty smart, right? So if you've ever heard being a vegan stops you growing up big and strong, try telling that to this leaf guzzler. Devil tree. Trees have held great symbolic value across countless cultures for thousands of years. Ancient Norse Vikings believed the whole of existence was based around a giant central tree, so they'd probably have been pretty shocked to see something like this. Pretty metal, right? It looks like a gateway to the fiery depths of hell. The tree in question was filmed in Portugal, but these demon trees crop up all over the world. And believe it or not, they aren't portals to the underworld. Due to their height, trees conduct lightning, but the sticky sap inside is more conductive than the exterior bark. So during a storm, lightning may be drawn to the sap through a hole in the tree. When it is, the hot lightning strike can raise the temperature inside close to a scorching 212 degrees Fahrenheit. If the tree is dry or dead, the whole thing will set alight. However, if it's damp from, say, a recent rainfall, the inferno is contained inside the trunk like a giant chimney. And if the flames make their way down to the underground root system, the fires can burn away for months without anyone knowing. This particular footage was captured in Sonoma, California. Now, if you told me a portal to hell had opened up there, I might believe you. California's rent prices must be the work of dark forces. Game of Bones. When I watched Game of Thrones, I couldn't help but want to have my own dragons. You know, to torch my enemies. Luckily for me, I can. Only these are much tamer, and probably won't be any use in torching my enemies. Aw. They're called snapdragons because their flower looks just like a dragon's snout. And if you squeeze either side of the flower bud, it even opens and closes like a mouth would. Luckily, they don't breathe fire. Otherwise, keen gardeners from Canada to Pakistan would be losing their eyebrows. Or worse, they could end up looking like this. These gothic skull pods are left behind once the flowers die and contain new seeds inside them. I guess that really is the circle of life, huh? I really wish it was the skulls of my enemies, though. Lady Garden. This is the Palicoria alata, which looks exactly like two bright red lips. The sultry shape is formed by bracts, extravagant leaves that grow to protect the flowers, and they've given the plant the well-earned nickname Girlfriend's Kiss. Last time I saw a pair of lips like that, they were giving the girlfriend's kiss to the milkman. My girlfriend! That busted milkman! Sheesh, I need a bath. My fingers have gone green from all this plant talk. Which of those peculiar plants was your favorite? Leave a comment down below, and thanks for watching.